Hello all, and welcome to El Nuclear and 2026. It's been a while since I've made a video, primarily because a lot of the videos I've been making had to do with audio equipment, and I've been very happy with the equipment I have, and I have not had a need to buy anything or try anything lately, so I haven't had anything that I wanted to talk about on that subject. But I wanted to get to a core issue that is the reason for all of this. What is the reason we spend money on equipment that is of a superior quality for sound reproduction? Hopefully, it's so you can play your vinyl records and get the best delivery possible, which in my opinion is the case when comparing formats if you have good equipment. So I want to start with a story that kind of aligns with this. I can remember back in the day when I was a kid buying vinyl records. It was kind of a sacred thing, and people of a certain age will relate to when an artist released something that you waited for and you went to the store and you bought it, whether it was on your bicycle and bringing it home. I used to put it underneath my shirt. I had like a dirt bike, and I'd go to the record store and I'd drive home with a record in my chest. Whatever it was, these are experiences that made life as a child kind of sacred. And those nostalgia, those memories kind of were something that as adults, I think we, on some level, came back to when rediscovering vinyl, when vinyl came back into vogue maybe 15 years ago, and manufacturing started up again, to a degree that it hadn't been in decades. So, flash ahead to around 2008 when I started buying vinyl again. I had just recently taken a 1987 Bang Olufsen, I think that's how you pronounce it, turntable, built like a tank, still worked perfectly, and all it needed was a cartridge. I went online, I found a cartridge, got it going again, and I was so excited to buy a new record to compare to. In my mind, I was like, wow, this is going to be great. This is going to be so much better than my old records that still were in good shape because I took care of them. Here's an example, like Stevie Nicks, Belladonna. I bought this probably in 1984, and as you remember, most of these old pressings were very flimsy. They were not 180 gram. They were fairly flimsy records, but they always sounded consistent. They sounded good. There were no issues. There were no clicks and pops out of the package. So I took that for granted. I figured, they made records well. You weren't returning them because they didn't sound right. Flash to Pink Floyd The Wall, deluxe 180 gram audiophile edition. I think I bought it 2 years ago. I bring that thing home. It's got more noise, more clicks, pops, flaws than I can even count. This quiet, brand new, sounds like shit. Why? Very shocking. So you get everything set up. Okay, this wasn't the first record I ever heard. This is a good example of current pressing quality. But in general, just trying to cite an example, when I first heard a new record, it was a similar situation to this back in 2008, where I compared it to a record like this, and it still could not be matched. It was not as good. So makes you think. I was really disappointed that experience exploded in my face. It was not good. It was like, wow, I thought I was going to hear something dramatically better after spending $25 and having this hype sticker that claimed its audiophile qualities. It sounded bad. So what can we take from this? One thing I want to say before we get into a little bit more about some of the possible reasons is the reason we listen to vinyl. in the first place. With all the modern delivery systems that we have now, it's cliche, but vinyl does sound the most realistic. It's less compressed, the resolution is better, it's more dynamic, the soundstage is wider and more realistic, as if you were listening to music in front of you in a 2-channel situation. For me, that attaches more to my heart and soul when I listen to music compared to vinyl, compared to digital formats. Regardless of your opinion on this, the quality of pressings has diminished, and in some cases it's recovered. There are exceptions. There are people doing it right, but there's a learning curve, and I think the learning curve is a big part of why the records don't sound as consistent. Back in the day, the people that produced vinyl had been doing it a long time because it was the primary format for music listening. So they learned how to do it right. And it didn't matter if it was a thin piece of vinyl. It didn't matter. What mattered was the quality of the manufacturing and the materials. And obviously, the materials themselves are no longer as good. I think the quality of the vinyl product itself has lost some of its purity in many cases, and I'm sure that has a contributing factor to noise. High demand, well, I don't know if that's a factor because back in the day it was the only thing, so the demand was even higher, and yet the consistency was good. Now it's not. Now it's like 1 out of 3 vinyl pressings that you buy needs to be returned because it's so noisy. I have records that are skipping that I bought a month ago that literally are skipping on the record player, on a expensive record player with an $800 cartridge, brand new cartridge, relatively so. Doesn't make sense. So there's a cumulative effect of lack of experience, material costs, and just general quality control issues that didn't exactly manifest in a good product. And this is a problem. Vinyl's expensive. Now, the audience. I think there are 3 primary groups of people that buy vinyl. And it all accounts for why it has gotten more popular to some extent. But the first group, I think, don't even really listen to it. There are a lot of kids that buy vinyl because it's a hip thing, and it's cool, and it's big, and the pictures are nice. And if they're a big fan of the artist, they just like to have the vinyl. It's a collector's item. It's an artifact. But they're really not listening on equipment that matters. They're not going to hear the quality issues because they're listening on a cheap turntable that can't really measure quality. In many cases, they're not listening at all. They're just collecting, and they're listening on their iPhone. And that really is a big part of the vinyl buying population are kids, like when we were kids, but they're not really listening to records primarily. They want the tactile experience, which is cool. We did too, but they have other options for listening, and I think that's for the most part what they're doing. Then you have people like me of a certain age that have the nostalgia factor, that also want good sound, that know the technicalities of why, but we find that vinyl is the way in which music connects with us best, and it sounds the most authentic to our ears. And that's a combination of the fact that it is sonically really pleasing, but also there is a nostalgia factor built in. Then there are the true audiophiles who have very expensive systems that want that absolute analog experience, and that is the way to do it with a well-pressed piece of vinyl. Now, those 3 audiences account for increases in sales over time, and the fact that vinyl is now a primary part of the music buying economy. It has become very popular. We'd hope that with this popularity would come an increase in quality control, but it's still not happening on a large scale. In the old days, it was consistent across the board. Now there are certain manufacturers doing it right and others that aren't. So I really hope that maybe it will continue to improve. But because of the economy, and because of the cost of materials, and because of demand versus, limited manufacturing plants and limited ability, it's hard to say how that's going to unfold with time. But I wanted to draw attention to the fact that there is a dramatic difference between vintage pressing and modern pressing. And I hope that that difference is lessened with time. And right now, it's more of a niche market as to which manufacturers are doing it well. As an example, Jack White's Third Man company has done very consistent pressings. Everything I've ever bought on that label has been really, really well done and sounds great. Anyway, those are the things I wanted to say. I'd love to hear your comments, your experiences listening to new vinyl versus something well taken care of that you know is a 30-year-old pressing or even older that still sounds better than something you bought last Tuesday. This is what I want to draw attention to. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for listening, and bye-bye.